Hello everyone, Richard Carlton here. Welcome to another great day of FileMaker training. I am the creator of fmtraining.tv, where we create lots of great on-demand videos for the FileMaker platform, as well as every day, 1 o'clock, this time slot, we are broadcasting live, covering awesome training topics. So we are going to be doing a very interesting, kind of our most challenging broadcast to date, because we have a lot of moving pieces here, and we have 3 guest speakers. We have Jacob Taylor, and they're all kind of ready to talk. Jacob Taylor, who's one of our, well, basically he's the head of our IT services at RCC. He's basically a server god. If we want the servers to work, we have to bow down before him and give him a sacrifice. So that's Jacob. Then we have Myles Debski, who a lot of you know him already. He's a really great guy. And of course, Nick Hunter is here, in so much that he has a couple random questions. So the video player tool that we're talking about today is a tool that basically it's, in fact, what I need to do is make sure I come over here and switch on my screen here. Screens, just turn that on, go live. So what you're going to find out is that, all right, there's a lot of noises. I'm going to have to mute the, how do you mute this thing? Muting the channel prevents, yeah, I'm going to just mute that for the moment. All right, so what we're doing is we're going to be taking apart the video player in terms of the data interaction with the server. So as you press the update button at the top, you can get the latest information. We just posted version number 22. So if you run the update button on your video player, you're going to be alerted that there's a new one. And if you want to go through that process of getting that new one and testing that license key for us, it'd be really great. So for those of you who did this yesterday, I was like 17 of you, of all the people I sent it to. You need to download it and put your and see if it transfers the license key over. Right. So welcome everyone. So Jacob Taylor, are you there? Are you ready to go with us today? Answer questions?
I'm present, yes.
Awesome. Jacob is awesome. He's here. Myles, are you there? Check. I have to do my checklist. Check. Myles, are you there?
I am also here.
Myles is there. Nick Hunter, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I was looking for the.
yes, he's there.
I have 3 screens. So
you don't know which screen you're on. Okay, you have to look at us over here. Over here,
Yeah,
do you see us? No, they're not. You're not looking at us. Look at the camera. Look at the camera. Now wave. Thank you. There you go. Much better. You have to look at the camera. Right. So real quick, Daryl had a question about yesterday. I want to get to that question first. I don't know if we want to show your screen. Nick, questions about the question from Daryl. He wanted to know about the control, right?
Yes. So the question was, does the hack, of the slide control on top of objects, you see, does that work on WebDirect? And the answer is no. Okay. So, but not yes and no. So it doesn't work. The click-through on WebDirect and on Go, we don't have the click-through. So if you have an object on top of a field or a button or whatever, you can click through. Okay.
You cannot click through. So that was that's one of the things about WebDirect that's really different than the other clients. So
yes. Yeah. And Go the same in some ways, because Go is even more complicated, because some click-through works and some doesn't. So don't. So you have to check for that. But a WebDirect, no click-through whatsoever. So that's a workaround. So, but I'm not going to explain the workaround here. So maybe I'm going to shoot a video, because I need to do that for the player anyway, to make it working on the iPad. So while I'm going to fix the problem on the iPad on the player, I'm going to record what I'm doing, and then everybody will be able to see it.
Okay, so you're going to make a video for us, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, but not right now. We're not doing that right now.
I mean, I guess you want, but it's not difficult at all to do. The workaround is very simple. But since I have to do it for the iPad version, I'm going to.
Oh, that you're going to address that in the iPad. Yeah. So some of you are asking, "Hey, doesn't this work on my iPad?" And we're like, only in so much that it works by accident. Because the running thought, there was a couple questions about the video player, and I was going to go drag it out of here real quick if I could find my video player here. So where did my video? Oh, Myles. No, Myles, can you post me the link real quick that we send out to everyone? It's the bit.ly for the video player. It's not the one you use. It's the main one where we download it. It's a custom bit.ly link.
Yeah.
If you could give that to me, that would be really swell here. And then that way we can do that. And then I want to pop that open real quick so I can show it a little bit here. I should have that already, but we've been actually running flat out. I had a meeting with Claris today. That was interesting. Asked some questions, got kind of a couple answers. So I'm going to download the current video player. So what's going to happen is now we are currently shipping version 22. Nick, I'm going to go ahead. If you want to go ahead and hide your camera for now, Nick, that's fine. Here is the version 22. So it doesn't matter what the version number is. We just keep track of it. So if I pop it up, assuming it opens, there it goes. So what we have is, that's interesting that's beeping right there on the 22. That might be a bug, Myles. When it pops up, it shouldn't be showing the update app version. So anyway, so you come over here. When you open it, if you're already a licensed user from the previous one, and then you press the update to new version button right here, it's going to basically download the new one for you and go through this process. Yesterday we talked about this a little bit, right? So this will download the latest version. That's not right. So yeah, your shutdown and reset process, Myles, is not quite correct yet. But Ken pointed out the fact that he didn't run the update. It didn't ask for the update until he ran this process right here. And that is a true statement. So what happens is, see now I ran the update, it's properly refreshed. What happens is it will only detect if there's a new video player when you run this. So we download, in fact, this is what we're talking about today. We're talking about this video player is getting new records of information from our FileMaker server, and we're not using an import command or an export command or any of that kind of stuff. That's kind of fragile. We're using basically, from layman's perspective, custom HTML, custom PHP. The engine that we're using on the FileMaker server is called the Data API, or what we call DAPI. Even at Claris, they call it internally DAPI, Data API. It's how you get data out of FileMaker server, and they kind of modified it a little different than PHP. So that's why we have Jacob here today and Myles to walk us through this. So the idea is that if you go to your course here, and have this information, right, and you're clicking around here and looking at this, and then a new training comes out, right? And so it starts to play, I guess. Audio's down. There we go. And so what happens is that, say we have new ones come out, you won't see them automatically in here unless you run the update. And so when it updates, it's going to ask you, hey, do you want to update all the courses or just the current courses? So when it says all courses, I'm talking about any videos that might have changed in FileMaker 13 or 14 or 15 or 16 or 17 or 18. I can tell you I'm not changing any of those. So you should download that once, mostly, initially, to get the good set. Maybe once a month if you're interested in 13 and maybe it looks incomplete, because we're still uploading 13 right now. So if you care about an old course like that, you can run this one right here. It might take it more like a minute to get all this information or something like that. It's a little bit longer. And so that's kind of the question we have. So once again, I want to welcome Ken, Carol from Oakland, Top Cat, everyone. They got questions. If you guys talk in anything but English, I will not. I'm just going to skip it because I'm not doing that. Today, Canberra57 is there. Awesome. So if you're looking, once again, if there's something that you're looking for specifically, so this is really important. So this happens a lot with the folks here watching the video. If you have an issue with your video player, you can ask it, but the tech support people who are going to fix it for you are not here. This is the broadcast team. This is my team. The tech support people are also the FileMaker coaches. They're working. They're in another building. They're 200 miles from here. And so if you want to get help, like Canberra has an issue, you have to write an email to support to say what the issue is, and we will chase it down for you. But it has to get in front of that team, because they're not going to sit here and triage Discord and Twitch and YouTube. Because as it is, I'm just now getting to YouTube. I got Daryl there. Sounds good. Hello from Angola. Wow, Angola, that's awesome. Yeah, and Nick is doing videos, still doing videos, although he's got project work he needs to work on for some of you. So once again, if you have feedback about Discord, feel free to do that. I also am running Discord over here on the side. So if you ask a question, once again, put the question into the text discussion there. That would be really awesome. So Myles, do we want to show your screen and talk about this a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Let me share.
Let me see. There we go. So how do I bring that up? There
think
it
I got
is.
the
There it is.
resolution good.
Here we go. Yep, here we go. So I'm going full screen, and you actually it looks really good. Actually, good.
Cool. All right. So yeah. So my plan is basically when we hit this magic button and we pull everything down, what's that actually doing? And so I was thinking we can kind of debug it, and then I might, yeah, kind of stop it at some point and talk through it a bit. So if I open up my debugger here, this main script we're running is called update videos. And I'm just gonna go through this here. So first thing we're checking for is, as part of that update player, when you come into your new updated version, we wanted to run a full download of videos at that point. So that's what this is checking for. Because if we're doing that, we want to grab everything. Otherwise, we're giving this option where, do you want every single video we have ready for you, or do you just want our current courses, which is like those 5? So let's say that pauses, I hit current. Then we're setting a variable here with current. Then we close that, and then we're going to continue on. These next couple lines are part of Nick's progress bar that we looked at yesterday. So that's basically clearing that progress bar out to get it ready. Then we are setting a couple variables here. These have to do with hiding and showing, also like we saw yesterday, how we have the different slide panels. And there's some different hides based on whether we have data to show or not. So we're setting that current section to select a course, which is kind of our restart. And this is just in case you're in the middle of watching stuff and you download, we want to kind of pull you back to that kind of fresh new view. We go to our slide panel here, which it's already showing, and then we're putting it in an update mode and then a refresh. So basically it just takes us to the kind of clear screen. Right here is where we pop that card style window.
Yeah, and we had a conversation. We've had a conversation where Nick walked us through how to build that progress bar. So if any of you want to know about how to build a progress bar, I will post a link back to that video here in a bit. So yeah.
Yeah, so pretty cool stuff. So then that's opening that window. Right here is where we set our first part of that. We're saying we're connecting the server. We set 15% and pause. And then here is where we do our first DAPI call, which is where we're going to request our preference. I want to kind of talk about this a little, so I'm going to jump out. I'm not going to show this full script because it has some sensitive data in it, but I have a kind of dummy version of it here. Because with this script, we're passing some parameters that it will need. And we're using this JSON set element to basically set 2 things into our parameter. One is the URL. And so what we're actually trying to do here is in this script is where we're going to connect to another database. So for us, we're connecting to our video database because that's the data we're trying to pull down. So in here, we're saying, okay, here is our server IP. So that, and then FMI data, you're basically drilling into where your database is. Here's the name of your file. And then we're saying, okay, go to a specific layout. So in this first call we're trying to get our preference record. So we have a specific layout for that preference. And then we have a specific script for that preference record. So that's basically all getting wrapped into this URL, put into that element there. And then we're also doing some curl options for our header, saying that the type is JSON, and then also that we're going to have an API token. So those are both getting put into the parameter as we run that that script there. Let me open up. I have a kind of clean version that I can show that script. I didn't clear this one out yet, so let me grab this real quick.
Yeah, so there are a couple questions, and I'm watching the questions. Let me just address that real quick.
Perfect.
If Myles, you want to get yourself reset here.
Yep.
So once again, I'm going to state this up for the record that we're currently looking at version 22. Everyone yesterday was given version 21. Myles, if you can go. Actually, I'll just take care of it on my end here. I'm going to minimize Myles just for a brief moment. This says 22 on it. This is the latest one here. When I run the update, I normally press this. It's going to come down. It's going to find out if there's any new versions for me, any videos I need, and then it's also going to find any new versions of the video player. And then this is a summary of what was brought down. And so if you have 21, you do this, you're going to see the button there, then you run through that process we showed yesterday. If you haven't seen that process, you guys trying to watch, if you're on 17, then you have to go find the email from yesterday. And if you run that email now, it's going to jump straight to 22, right? That's always the thing. When we send you an email link, that's the link as of that moment. If we update to 23 or 25 or whatever, and you go find that old email, we're not sending you an old file. We're going to send you the latest file. So if Canberra 57 didn't do this yesterday, then when he runs that email that we sent to him, then what will happen is he'll just go straight to 22 and he won't go through the update process. That's why the people from yesterday, I need you to kind of test this to make sure it works, it makes sense, because, and I don't want to go through it in super great detail, but we basically save out your license key into a text file along with your name and information. We download the new version, we close the file, then you find the new one wherever it downloaded on your desktop or wherever your downloads are at. And then you are going to, when it opens, it looks for that preference file. It's going to read in your license key, etc., and react. So starting with version 21, you don't have to keep putting your license key in. Once you do it again in 21 or 22, whenever you do it, going forward, you won't have to do that. It will keep it up to date. Does that make sense? At least for the next 12 months or till whenever your subscription expires. So these guys are talking back and forth. Let me simply state that when we come here, if you hit the escape key, it lets you out. Myles should probably put a little checkbox here or something like that to let people they can escape. If you come here and this is running and then you try to escape at this point, generally we have it turned off so you cannot abort, because what it's doing is it's connected to the server, which is what we're going to be covering here. It's going and getting the data down and parsing it apart and loading the database. If you abort in the middle of that, you can throw the file away because you'll probably end up in a state that it won't run. And so we turn off the abort. If you find some way of stopping this when it's running, like we try really hard to abort it, I think the abort's prevented. But if you're able to stop that, basically what we do is we verify we have a connection with the server. Then once we have the server, we bring down the block of data. We verify the data is coming down into a big block, and we say, yeah, it's there, good. Then we blow out the records, and then we're going to parse it. And Myles is going to show that to us right now. So Myles, you want to keep going on that?
Yeah, so I just wanted to be able to show you guys this actual subscript we're going to run. So what I've done here, I've taken a version of the file that I'm kind of taking out our sensitive data, and this will end up being that admin access one that you all will get to play with. So there's that same script we get here. We just looked at what we're passing in that parameter, and then the actual script that it's running here, we clear out some globals. That's just set fields to nothing. And then that parameter we passed it, we split that apart. So we're using our JSON get element to pull out from those URL and curl options into these variables here, specifying our database name. And then we're going to need a token. And so if we already have a token, we can use that. But if we don't, which means this is like a new connection, then we need to log into that database file. So then it calls this login script here, which now we're saying on this server, there's this database name, and then we use this word sessions. And then this part is very important. You actually have to have a security account that you use. And this is just in the player app, but what I'm talking about here is this right here, access via FileMaker Data API.
Yeah.
So in your go ahead.
Keep going. No, you're going. Go and finish that thought.
Yeah, so in the whatever file you're connecting to, like we're connecting to our video database, we created a new user account that has this DAPI privilege set checked on, and in the script, that's what we're actually passing here, the username and the password to that account.
So what I want to spend a moment here and just kind of reemphasize, I'm going to make yourself a little bit smaller here, Myles, and I'm going to go ahead and go over here to, yeah, so this is really important what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this full screen if I can briefly here, and I'll zoom in on this a little bit. So this is a screenshot of a server that we have running. This is a 18 server. We're not quite the point where we're installing 19 servers yet, mostly because we let stuff air out. What's really important that you understand is that when you're connecting with FileMaker Pro, FileMaker sees you as a pro connection. It doesn't see you Mac or Windows. I mean, it can tell. It doesn't care, right? And then a Go connection is iPhones and iPads, right? And there's WebDirect. And then we get this little section over here, right? Additional connections. And these basically are effectively your PHP part of the operation. For example, when everyone, when you go and download a copy, a starting point, this is the same kind of stuff that we have there. We have a situation where, let me go ahead and zoom back out. Oh, it's pretty big there. You actually type in your name and email, and it submits it. You're not in FileMaker, you're in a web page. The web page is talking to a web server. The web server is talking to FileMaker server. That's what we're doing here. Now, instead of doing PHP with this, what we're doing is everything that we've been teaching for the last 2 months. Every time we talk about JSON, remember there was the JSON conversation and understanding JSON. And then we had 3 days of Art Savea talking about doing APIs and learning APIs. And all these videos are available right now, even for free. And Art talked about how to use Postman to talk to that. So what normally you do is when you're doing API stuff, you go out to say PayPal and you say, oh, let's get some, check an invoice from PayPal. And PayPal talks back to you. What we're doing is that we are actually in FileMaker on our own little application, and the service that we're talking to is not PayPal, it's FileMaker server at RCC. So really, we've turned our FileMaker server into an API service. That's what they call it, the data API. FileMaker made this new in 17 and kind of solidified it in 18, and it works pretty good. Jacob, am I articulating this even reasonably well at this point?
Yeah, I'd say so. It's sort of a new product focused around how can we interact with a FileMaker database, but from something out on the web. That's sort of why they chose JSON for that, for the data to pass back and forth, because it's fairly common outside of FileMaker, for example.
Yeah, and so JSON's become a standard. So not all our APIs, Google's using them. Amazon completely runs on APIs and hooks and stuff. Like there's an AWS example that we have where you could submit a image and it gets the OCR and brings the text back. It's a free demo we have. It works. It's on our website. There's a AWS for, I send it a voice file, it brings back the text transcript, like closed captioning of what was said. Those are all APIs. So we're having a local FileMaker file, packages up with JSON, make the request, and then the results coming back. Myles explained to you, and if you haven't been following along in these conversations, basically as we train you, we're getting to a point where it's kind of the culmination of all the training comes together. The culmination of understanding lean design to some degree, understanding progress bars, you're seeing that, understanding the data API that Art was talking about with Postman. We're using all the tools in our toolbox, and a lot of you are still learning what is a hammer and where should I use it. And so today's kind of advanced because we've taken all the tools and we're using every tool to build an application that does what we want it to do and is as seamless as possible. And that, I guess, makes sense. So, questions. They're talking about the Yeah, the idea is that you copy. If you're going to put the license key, you need to put the license key in. You're going to copy it out of the email. You're going to go to the dialog up here at the top over here. You're going to copy it out of an email somewhere. You're going to come into this screen and you're just going to press the paste button. And I did in my clipboard. I had this string. Yours will be 5831 blah 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 blah. You're going to paste it and then you hit submit, and then it verifies it, and it comes back as being. Although when you submit, Myles, you probably ought to put a little red check that it didn't work here. I would guess, because it just ignores it. Once it works, you get this big animated check, and this whole thing goes on. So, so let's see. Daryl Hampton said, "Yeah, I'll find the link." If you want to see the links are of this training we were talking about, this go to the daily live streams in here, and you could do the new search that we have in here. You could put API in here, for example, like that, and then you could say current course. The current course is the API. These three right here are the three from Art Surveyor. We talked about API. If you talk about JSON, JSON, we put that in there. There's the one that we had with Calvin even in the last week about that. So there's a lot of good stuff. And these are more than this. I think we need to make sure the descriptions are up to date in here for the live videos. It's always a of all this in here. And then if we do the search, I'm going to go ahead and pause this. The search for, what is it, progress bar? I'll just put progress, right? Do a search. All courses, progressive backup, building bar, blah, 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 blah. I hit current. Progress bar conversion, there it is right here. So it's on June, is that May? That's June. June 4th with Nick Hunter, right? So it's all in here. You just press the button and off you go. So that content is in here. Cool. And then let me see. There's a read more in here. There's a sample file in here. We need to update that. So once again, if you're not seeing what you need to see, if you're missing something, you need a sample file. Something's not right with your account. Send an email to support@RC Consulting, please. Very, very important. Okay, cool. All right. Ace Estimate on YouTube says, "Hi from Bob from Miami. Download 22. It worked pretty good, but all the videos I checked marked are now unchecked." Okay, so Ace Estimate. So here's so you checked it and then are now unchecked. Okay, if you unchecked them, yeah, that's a good point. That's another one. So I'm thinking that you checked them on version 21, then you updated the version 22 and it undid your checking, right? Yeah, we'll have to look at that. Those are more preferences, right? You're making edits to the data, and that data, when you run an update, that big update with the new version entirely, we're not saving like the videos you've watched. I guess we probably should, right? So it's like 20/20 hindsight. You only see that in hindsight, like, oh yeah, I guess I should save that data, right? That's why we do testing. We haven't completely carpet bombed everyone out of existence yet with that. So that's a good point. Cool. All right, so Myles, back to the code walk, but I want to make sure people understand strategically kind of the conversation. It's pretty deep, right? It really is. We're back to this API construction stuff.
Yeah, it is pretty deep. So yeah, like Richard said, ask the questions, watch the video once we post it later, and yeah, and we can always help. So where we left off was right here, putting in that username and password from the file you are connecting to, and then the last variable we're setting here is actually our curl options. So if I open that up, we're doing a post, and then we're setting 2 headers here, kind of like what we did earlier. The content type is JSON, and for our authorization, that's what we just specified up here, that username and password, and then that's just giving us our brackets there. And this is in that login, so we're basically just trying to connect to that file. So that's what we do here. We actually do that call, bring back what we got into our result, and what should come back if it was successful is that token that we need. So we grab that token. This just sets what we got back, mostly for testing, and then we exit that script with that token. So then we're back here. Where was I? Right here. So then we're back with the token. We do a little check for an error, put our result in there. Then we're updating our progress bar again. And then here's, we're putting that token kind of wrapping it into a variable, which then gets added on to these curl options. So then this is our big call here, with kind of all those things added together. So that at this point, we've connected to the database to get our token. And then here we're connecting with what we specified in our parameter, which if we back one layer back up to here, what were we doing? We were trying to do prefs. So that was where we connected to the database, to the pref layout, running that pref script. And so when we come out of that, we have our results from that preference record. Here's just an error check. If it didn't work, we halt. Otherwise, there's a progress dialog again right here. We're just making sure that we did get one thing back. And then right here is where we're basically parsing that apart. So we go to our pref layout, and then we set everything we got back into this field here, latest import data. And the data we got back are actually split by pipes. And so this is doing a substitute. So instead of one long line of data with pipes, we're now splitting it into, 5 lines. And so then for these fields, 61 to 65, what we put in that field, we're pulling apart. So the first line, or that first value, that's our latest news. Line 2, that's our updated date. 3 is our info. 4 is your player version. And 5 is actually that link to download the new file. And here's a little update on our progress bar again. And that completes the preference call. And then basically we're doing that exact same thing that we just went through, but to get our courses. So we're going to connect to the database, go to a different layout, different script, but doing the exact same process, pull that apart. And then we're doing the exact same thing for categories and then also for videos. And the one difference with video player is that, sorry, that's categories. I need to go a little lower. When we are doing videos, we have a little addition in this parameter, because now we're not just connecting and running a script, we're also giving it a parameter. Because remember when we first started, we asked, do you want all the videos or do you want the current? So we set that in a variable. And so what we're saying here is we're actually defining this param element, and then that just gets added on the end here. So for our first 3, for prefs, for courses, for categories, you just have this set element and you end at the script name. But for videos, we're adding on a parameter for the script that it runs. So that's kind of the overview of what these look like with these subscripts. Now I'm going to close the demo version and go back to my main 22, and we can do our debugger just to kind of see how, when that data comes back, how we kind of break through it a little bit.
And then I don't have any other questions. We did have a bug that came up from 21 to 20, from build 21 to 22 miles. I think I mentioned this. The green dots disappeared. We weren't preserving that, so it did. Ace Estimate on YouTube did confirm that that's what we did. We overlooked that part of it, right? So it's like one of those, like, oh yeah. And then that paste thing is screwing people up. We're gonna have to revisit that one too. The paste item was kind of our way of resolving that, but no one's looking at the giant button above it. They're just trying to do Command V. It's not like one person. So some of you were asking, like, how do you know when you're building good software? I guess basically one way to tell is when the squealing stops. Right, Myles, right? Like if you're at the farm and you're grabbing the animals and they start making a lot of noise and you're doing it wrong, they let you know. So when you have people testing the software and they're commenting, there's nothing wrong. But when I have 5 people say, hey, well, how the hell does the paste thing work? That's a clue that we screwed that up, right? It's not your fault as a user. It's the person on the other end who built the software, right? See that? So, yeah, that's, and I understand that. I totally get it. So, we will have to figure out how to turn on the pasty command over here, or do a keyboard shortcut. We could probably scan for a paste and allow them to do a keyboard shortcut here. Or the keyboard keystroke, right, Myles?
Yeah. Check for that. Yeah. I mean, the reason we did that is because the privilege set is locked down, so you can't paste in by your privilege set. But if we're doing it with a script, then we can have the script run with admin access. So
Right. And all we have to do is intercept the fact that they're hitting Command or Control V as in Victor, and then it would trigger the script that would do it. You wouldn't know. See, that's part of the security. It gets back to security. To keep people from getting into trouble, we turn off a lot of stuff so that copying it. Well, on this part, copy paste is off. Can they copy out of the notes though, Myles, when they want the sample file? They should be able to copy there, right?
yes.
So if you go over to,
it's not fully. This part, it's kind of like what we talked about this morning. This part is, but not on the.
oh, on the other one, we have to take care of that one as well. Yeah, so we're trying to resolve this a little bit, get this dialed in. But it's a work in progress, but it's actually looking pretty good. I think a lot of you would kind of like how this is working for the most part. I did have one person, Dr. Pollard, who's a very particular gentleman, is in Australia right now, and it was the question came up, if you can go up here and select the course right here, the course thing right there, Myles. He was like, well, I'd really like to see this without all the other courses down below, right? And I'm like, well, what we've done, for those of you wondering about this, so if you scroll down a little bit, so these, if you buy a bundle, you would normally get all the courses up this way. So that's all the active courses, right? These are the legacy courses. Normally these would be a separate video player file, but we decided to bring it all into one file, so we're only supporting and building one file. And that way we don't have to try to sell all these as separate individual little products with their own little players, etc. Because FileMaker keeps adding new things, right? And it's becoming unwieldy for us to do that. So couple you didn't know what I was talking about, then they opened up like 8 players from the old version. They were like, holy cow, this is a lot, right? I think it was Ken or someone was like, can't remember who it was. They were emailing me. They took a screenshot, said, wow, no wonder you guys are drowning, right? So we're trying to make one awesome video player that kicks butt, and then we support everything with that instead of having like 12 different ones, right? Makes sense? So one awesome aircraft carrier, not 12 little crappy destroyers. Does that make sense, I guess, for those of you in the Navy? So, Jacob Taylor, are you there? Questions, comments?
Yes, I am here.
Questions? Any questions you see that need to be answered? Nick Hunter?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're loud and clear, Nick. We're just saying if
Okay,
you're still conscious or you're taking a nap or what's going on.
No, not at all. I was looking. No, I don't have any questions.
Well, if someone has a question you see up here that I missed, feel free to let me know. All right, so Myles, we want to continue here a little bit with this.
Yeah, so I'm going to do what we started before, just stepping through this. Now that we've kind of looked at what it's doing, we kind of have those guidelines. It'll, I think, make a little more sense. So there's where we check for that update. Here's where we ask which kind of pull down we're wanting to do. I'm just going to do current only since that's the faster one. So we set that in the variable. Remember, that's what we use later in that script parameter. We close that. We're going to prep those things for our progress bar. We're going to make sure we're back on our original slide. So that just kind of clears us, refreshes us in case we're watching a video so we can see our results nicely. Then here's our progress bar card style window. We set that to connecting and 15. And then here's where it does that first script. So I'm just going to have it play over that. And then we can see what that came back with. Okay, so we just ran that subscript, which in that subscript also had another subscript that connected to our database. So if we look at, let's look at that variable JSON result. I'll just type it in here. So there's our result here. These are basically our preferences, right? So we can see that here's our version 22's released. There's our pipe that's separating from the next one, which is the date. And then we're saying, here's the little note of what's in that release. Here's the actual name of it. And then here's that download link. And then there was no error. And so that's what we actually got back. So we check that there was no error with that.
Okay, so
what?
Yeah, so let me just interrupt and just I'm kind of making sure we're all following along here. So we make 4 different calls to this. We basically, what Myles did, so this is like the FileMaker way of doing it. You're like, once again, initially we're not worried about lean design. We're just trying to get the thing to work. It's like we're like doing, so this was new for Myles to do this with the data API. He'd never done this before. And so the goal is to just get anything to work. Get anything to work, right? So he does a call, it doesn't work. Finally, he gets it, so he makes one call, and he makes a request to get the courses back. So the list of the courses is that first list with the current courses and then the legacy ones. That's a single table of information. We covered that yesterday and the day before. So then he goes, I got it working. So now I'm going to make it one call, and he builds it, then he duplicates the code. One call for the courses. Okay, got it. Then out of another table, another call. Give me all the records for the categories. Got that. Third one, give me all the records for the videos. That's the big one, right? It's like thousands of videos, right? Each record is a different video. And then the last one, which I think you're doing first here, right, Myles, is basically, it's the first one, but there's 4 of them. Doesn't matter where they are in the order. It's retrieving a single record. It's a single record that tells you what the current version is, any news items, information, things like that. And then the system goes, well, I have 21, but here comes the 22. That's that bit of text right there, Myles. You show that one more time. So basically, your system knows it's on whatever version. Is that in the data viewer? Where's that at?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or did we lose it already?
Yeah, I didn't save it.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's fine. But the idea is that the server, your copy knows what version it is. And so by doing a query to the master system, when we upgrade it, we put a note in the little master system saying, oh, by the way, so when you guys were watching the opening music to the broadcast, I actually posted the version 22, literally at that moment. I got my Diet Coke, my Diet Dr. Pepper, and then I posted the file, and then I went into our system and said, oh, by the way, in this one preference record in our database, that it's now version 22. So then you download it, your copy goes, are they the same? No. Must be an update, so it displays the update button. Very nice. So Myles, you may continue with that. I'm trying to like re-emphasize, because I know people are like, what the hell? What the hell?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And so then we're putting that result here in this variable, and that basically concludes our preference for now. Update this dialog. So there's where it just changed to preferences and 25 instead of 15. And then here is where we're making sure we did get a preference record back. And then we're going to open a window to preferences, which I think is way off screen, which is why we're not really seeing it. But here's where we're parsing that apart. So latest import data. I'm just going to step through these, and I could show you in the data viewer since we don't see the layout. So if I look here in preferences, latest import data, we set everything into that and split it apart. And then for each of the fields below that, we pull those out of here. So we're saying, okay, here's our latest news, and here's the update date, and here's that version, right? And so at this moment, your prefs are now updated, which, like Richard said, is when the little hide would kick in and your button would show up.
Yeah, so what comes down is a JSON object. Once again, we talked about this early last week with Calvin, basics of JSON. What is a JSON object? How do we parse it apart? So we make 4 requests to our system from here. We get basically 4 giant JSON objects down, basically. And then we run a loop that parses. Well, with this one, there's not much parsing. It's really one record, right? But some of these are creating, all the other ones are creating multiple records, right? There's like, there's 10 or 12 courses records. And then there's, several hundred category records. And then for videos, it's and that's what you see over here when you run. When everyone runs the update, you get done, it'll give you a breakout of what it did. It'll say 1 preference, 5 courses, 12 giraffes, a partridge, and a pear tree. It'll list it out for you. We didn't have to do that. We just did that so we could see what the hell was going on. So,
yeah, and that, just like you said, like prefs is really light. It's just that 1 record. And so then we're just finishing that out there with the success. And then we're on to the next one, which the next one was courses. And so if I just kind of scroll ahead here, for courses, we double check that we have more than 5, just so we know it didn't kind of blow up or fail, but that could be toggled a bit. And then on this one, let me just play it through down to here. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do a call to get our course data, and it brings it back. And then what we did right here is just getting a total of how many things we got back. And so if I look in our data viewer at total, there's 18. So we got 18 course records back. And then now what we're going to do here is basically loop through those. So we go to whatever existing course records we have and delete them all.
Yeah.
And then
that's the part where I said we can't interrupt it in flight, because once we commit to that, we're blowing out the records and replacing them, right? So,
yeah. And then this is just going to loop through and build them back. And it's the same thing like we were doing for prefs. We set everything into one field, and then we're pulling out of that. We know because of the order we gave it from our other file, we know that 1 is our ID, 2 is our title, 3 is our sort, et cetera, et cetera. And that basically would go through those 18, kick us out, and then we're on to categories.
Okay. I got a question here from Figure Disfondo. It's an interesting, almost like a dancing name. So Disfondo. So this is what this question is. And so I'm not totally clear on the question. I kind of think I know. It may be naive and out of context, since I haven't watched this from the start. All the solutions I have ever made were for companies that all had the same version. Is it common to check the V number or the build number? So here's the deal. This is about making a vertical market application. A bunch of you want to build vertical market applications. On Saturday, we almost never hear from Mohammed, but when Mohammed shows up, it's like I get carpet bombed with questions about vertical market apps. That's great. I'm glad. I wish he was here more. We don't see him very often. But if it's like Saturday, he will show up and parachute out of the sky and land on me. A lot of people want to know about vertical market apps. With a vertical market app, you have to have a way. Okay, so first off, you're going to build an application and it's going to have bugs in it. It's going to suck. Okay, so then you have to remediate the suckage, right? There's an advanced terminology, remediate the suckage. So if I was actually Claris Marketing, they would never put those two words together ever or use them ever. But the reality is, if you think you write perfectly great code, you don't. Look at what we've done. We managed to build a system that works pretty good, but people are confused by the paste and the fact that we also, from build to build, all your little checkbox of what videos you watch, we're deleting those and ejecting that data. So we have at least 2 kind of serious things that we need to fix. So now, if you're building an application for a customer, it's their own app, to fix their app or update their app, you're just going to log on their server and fix their app, right? You're not going to have revision this, revision that. Maybe in the future, in a couple of years, we will. 19, you're starting to see that a little bit. Jacob is playing with that. Jacob, we talked about 19 where you could patch an app. But right now, it's so technically difficult. My team really can't quite totally do it yet. They keep playing with it. There's no documentation. It's unsupported. So, but there'll be the point where you could patch an app. Where you press the update button and it patches it. Instead of uploading a new FMP12 file, what if it downloaded a patch file and then went into your file and then kind of overwrote the scripts that were bad and stuff like that? So that's the future. But that will never really happen if, I've been doing this 30 years now. Vast majority of all our projects are for every customer has their own, even if they start with starting point, they have their own custom application. So there's not like a master one where we're going to push out version 2 to everyone. Everyone has their own custom one. Therefore, I do the custom work for everyone. There's no like mass update. This is a vertical market app. I have literally, there'll be thousands of people, maybe tens of thousands if we're lucky, people who will download this app and they will watch the videos, and then they will want updates like the videos, the content video changes for sure, because we're shooting videos all the time like right now. And then secondly, we're going to discover bugs in it, and we have to find a way of getting the new versions in front of people. We're going to build something that sucks. It has to be fixed. We're going to remediate. That means fix or address or overhaul, fix the issue, fix the suckage, get rid of it. And so that's the strategy, and that's why we're going through this conversation. If I just built this one file for Elzo right now, then we'd never go through this. Elzo goes, hey, Richard, I paid you a lot of money. This thing's broke. Come fix it. Remote into his computer, log on to his server, because every good developer is using FileMaker Server or FileMaker Cloud, so you get backups, right, Jacob Taylor?
Yeah.
Because some of you don't, but please do. And I would log on that server. We'd make the change for Elzo. Elzo would go, good, Richard. Thanks for the good tech support. That's how it normally works. So desfondo, which is a great call sign. It means background picture in Italian. That's great. Figure desfondo. So Nick is French. So Nick, we have a little bit of Italian action going on YouTube. So anyway.
Parlo molto bene italiano. Ho vissuto in Italia 6 anni.
There we go. So that's why we have a talented group of people here. So Jacob speaks server. Nick speaks what? French, Greek, Italian. You speak Canadian too. They have their own language.
As did Chris, yes. I'm speaking the Québécois. I'm speaking the French Canadian. I lived in Canada for 3 years.
Yeah.
And my brother lives there. So I know the accent and the lingo is slightly different from the French. Not too much.
Yeah.
But I mean, they understand French people, but French people might not understand the people from Quebec. So.
All right. So what we're done is we're walking through this again, but people are asking, why would you go to this level of effort? It's because you have a vertical market app. You're going to have some sort of strategy. If you we are going to release, and I don't think it's going to happen today, we're going to give you this player unlocked. All the automatic stuff won't work because you have to have your own server set up. But if you want to take a video player and use it for your company, or have someone use it, you want to get a hold of us, we'll give you an unlock one. You can do it yourself. If you need some help, get a hold of my team, and we can come to some sort of deal on that, right? And if we need to change all the blue to pink or some other color over here, then we'll get our UI expert, Nick, to help change the color for you. Oh, man. All right, Myles, you may proceed.
Yeah, I mean, I can go step by step through this, or just play through some of it. It's basically...
I would play through so they see the block, and then they see you parse it, and they get the fact it's a JSON object. Is it educational?
Okay. So we are here doing the courses. So this is our master filter table. That's what our courses are. And so if I just put our import data here, it's currently empty until I do this step. And now we see that this is what came back for the first occurrence of our JSON data. Because remember, we're pulling we're in the loop. So we're just getting that first one. And so, well, that's our current course, FileMaker Platform 2020. And then we're basically going to pull this apart. So this is our title. This is our sort order, whether it's free or paid, description short, description long. We got a divider, and then here's some of them have work files you can download. That's the one for that course. And so if I just do monitor, each of these steps are just pulling that apart into their respective fields. And I'll step through like 2 of these and then have it play through. So then we get to the bottom, we're saying, hey, is our count equal our total? Which remember, our total was 18, so we're not there yet. So it jumps back up to the top, makes a new record. And now this second one, if I open that up, that's our next course in the list, which is deploy, same data, sort, it's paid, short description, long description, download.
Hey, Jacob Taylor, you ready to go to bat on a question here? So Demetrios has a question on YouTube. He asked it last week, and I told him we would bring it back this week. So here it is. I'm glad. Thank you for reminding me of the question, right? Because we're really busy here. We forget. Demetrios says, I have a question I asked last week. I think when I connect to FileMaker from PHP, what are the objects that can't be renamed in order to avoid breaking the PHP code? Only fields or layouts or other things too, tables, TOs? And is there any clever solution to dealing with all these changes?
Let's see. So I think the things that you are actually reading data off of can't be changed. So that's going to be scripts. That's going to be the layouts, the field names definitely. You will want to, let's see, what else can you pull? So you can pull things like value lists. You don't want to rename those. You can reconfigure them. You can change what type of data comes out. You can do all that stuff. Yeah, I think you can rename the TOs underneath all of that stuff.
As long as sometimes when you have a field, you put the full.
You put the whole thing in there. Yeah. So as long as you're not naming the TO in the call, like if you just say, hey, I'm on this layout and I want the about me field or whatever, as long as, if the TO underneath that change, as long as you're not calling the whole thing out.
Yeah, they call that a fully qualified name, and that's a little bit more advanced. But the idea is that sometimes you see that. Most people, even I, don't pay attention to it that much. FileMaker will get a fully qualified name when it needs it, but the reality is that no spaces. So so put your hand out. There we go. I'm going to help you out with this a little bit. So you put your hand out. You want to name something with a space? No spaces. No spaces. No special characters. If you need a space, you use an underscore. In our solution, let me just log on. Actually, Myles, why don't you do it? And I'm not showing your screen right now. Why don't you log on to the video management system, get past that first screen, right? And drill down to like one of the other layouts, like go to the LiveStream, and then I'll show your screen when you're there. We can walk through people. They can see the source of this data. They understand what we're doing. I kind of explained this the other day, but I think there's some people here who haven't seen this. So, so Demetrios, yeah. So no spaces, no high ASCII characters, nothing funky, no doubles.
Yeah. What I would say, just as a general rule, just for people like watching, is if you can avoid renaming things, you should. That's the short version, because there are a bunch of situations. So like the way the RCC does this, we make web specific layouts. If there's going to be TOs or tables.
We're going to show those. We're going to show those. That's what we're going to do.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. And those are specific for that use, and we don't touch them at all. In fact, we write don't touch them.
All right, Myles, let me know when you want to show your screen here.
Okay, I am going to share it. This one.
Go back to that. Okay, so I'm on. I see stuff now. I see that. Okay, so can you pop that for me real quick, and let's just take a look at this. So back up. So let's start at the top a little bit before we get down there. So what we have up here at the top these are all the layouts that we manage the system on. So in fact, just go to the top, Myles, and show where we start this at the beginning. Just go to the live stream ones. And so as we do live streams, in fact, Myles needs to hit the button here. It'll update the records. So these are the records that we're using. These are the latest ones, like from, this is in fact, this is the record for today's video that we're shooting literally right now. We've already created the record. It's going to be edited by Jeremy Delara. It's homeless, like a homeless kitty, because he hasn't really picked it up, started working on it yet. The one from yesterday and the test videos from Saturday, Sunday will not be pushed live. They'll be just deleted and pushed out because they were mostly mayhem. So the idea is that we manage it in here. Once we think it's final, we press a button. It grabs all the text, and we literally move it to another table. We literally move it to another table on another dedicated layout. And so Myles is going to scroll down to the very bottom, and we have this folder called web layouts do not rename. And these layouts right here, if we rename them, then your update processes on all your apps breaks. And so this is what Dimitrios is saying. There's when you start coding, like really code, like forget FileMaker. FileMaker is the nice G-rated, Disney coding environment. If you change names, it's okay. We love you anyway. Any other planet, if you change a name, they're going to cut your fingers off and burn you at the stake because you break everything. And so when you start to do PHP and data API and things like that, you start to play with real coding and programming, JavaScript and and C and everything else that you can do. So the whole idea is that that suddenly we have like real world rules. And so notice there are no spaces down here. I can kind of zoom in a little bit, Myles. Don't move too much. There are no spaces in here. And there's underscores. And then we put it in a folder. We can rename the folder. That's okay. But we just say, hey, do not rename these, do not touch these. Now, for some of you are wondering, like, well, how come you don't? So every time we did a new course, we had to create a layout up here to manage it, right? You notice all these other courses up here to manage. Then we had to stage the output video. So all those other video players you've always noticed, these are the staged content for each of those. We got tired of creating all these layouts and all this stuff. So if we bring them all together, then we have one set. It just makes our life trying to manage things in one solution much easier. Myles, if you just kind of go in here and show us these records, that way they get an idea of what we're looking at.
Yeah, so when I was showing that demo version before, and we had to load into our parameter kind of that URL of where we're trying to connect to, the three things we had in there was the database name and then the layout name. So for preferences, it would have had this layout. And then we have also a script for each one. And so this one is super simple. It's basically saying, come to this pref layout. And then we have a calc field that is just adding all these fields into a string. And that's what it's giving back. Which is that field right there.
You come over here and notice there's no interface. There's no interface here at all, right? And the idea is that we are staging this data. Did you hear that conversation about staging the data? I mean, I don't know what I've said and not said, so.
Yeah, so you said staging the data, and then I showed the script where we basically just come here and we're kicking this out, and that's where we left off.
Right, so then the idea is show the courses real quick for me. I kept saying show the courses and you wouldn't show the courses. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with you? So the idea is that you come down to the courses. So we are pulling this data out. So this is the course download. So remember we had 4, the suck it pull. We're sucking the data out. We're making a call. PHP call, if you want to call it that, for lack of a better term, it's a programming API call using Json, data API. There's really a better description of what it is. And then, so that's the course one. You notice on records, it's really fast. Then we go to the categories, which is like probably 200, something like that, 100, 200, or some sort of categories. So 166, which is great. So then you suck all this data down. And then we go down to, once again, the last one, which is where we have a lot of records, which is why we're asking you in the new version, hey, do you want all of them or you want some of them? Because this is going to be about 3,000 when we're done. And it's a lot. And most of them will be legacy-based videos. So, yeah, so the idea is that this is all staged. It's set up here. We don't care about the interface. But we cannot rename any of this stuff. We cannot rename the scripts. We cannot rename anything, or it will break your button on your end. So that's why it says do not mess with that. Now, we do check to see if the internet's down, like you can't get to the server. In fact, we'll do a couple more tests on that. But if you're unplugged and you press the button, what are you likely to see, right? That's the question. So, and so I've got lots of conversation here. So, questions about stuff? Nick, Jacob, a little bit. How are you doing? We haven't talked to Jacob too much today, but we haven't had people asking questions about the server side of the conversation.
No, not yet.
All right. Cool.
Let me know if you guys have web questions.
Yeah, well, that's
I'm
why we
here.
brought him here. We had questions. I think everyone's heads exploded when we started parsing JSON. You know, and I know it's basically the important thing to understand is this is the culmination of all the a culmination of all the training that we're doing. So this is the net result. You know, the building a vertical market app and getting it out there. You know, and that's just part of it. You know, coming up with ways to mitigate the suckage. So when you suck by accident, like we forget that you have little dots and we erase them all, then we have to. I can see that we're going to have a 23 and a 24 at some point. That will fix that stuff. So, and so Nick Hunter, are you there? Are you asleep?
I'm here. No, I was watching.
Okay, I was just making sure. Problem is I muted myself by accident and I had no idea that I was muted. So if it sounds like an awkward pause, we call it pregnant pause in video. So like a really big pause. That's a clue that I'm probably talking and no one can hear me. So Christian, Jesse, why do you have calc field and not parse all the fields as JSON? Myles, why do you have a calc field not parse all the fields of JSON? Actually, you probably could have constructed it that way, right? You probably could have done that. Myles?
Are they talking about in our video side?
Yeah, on the source side, I think he's talking about the calc there. Yeah, because remember this was built, you know, and then Myles is kind of inexperienced and still learning this. So what we show here is maybe not the per se the best way of doing that. I think it's pretty speedy, pretty fast. But in terms of using the JSON to construct the object, right, and then as opposed to parsing it apart, right, that'd be another. I mean, you could solve the problem 10 different ways. The reason they're mentioning this is because Calvin was showing a webinar on constructing and destructing, right, about a week ago.
Gotcha.
And so Myles this is a new one for Myles, so if it's not perfect, that's fine. It's something you would never know one way or the other, but we would look at it from a performance standpoint. If the performance wasn't good enough, then we bring Jacob in, we say, hey, do we make it faster? And if we do it that other way, is it faster, right? Maybe it's a wash. Right.
That was going to be my note. Actually, one of the things that you can do when you're parsing really big chunks of data is to turn stuff into calc fields to inject the data back instead of doing like set field with get element as JSON, blah blah blah, because those tend to be slower, especially when you're dealing with large amounts of data.
Okay, so maybe this is faster this way. So once again, for the question there was from Christian Jesse. Yeah, so try it either way, but once again, we're dealing with, you know, for one record or 20 records or 100 records, probably not a deal. When I start dealing with 3,000, and everyone's, while it's running all 3,000, you're going to watch that progress bar, right? Like, why is it so slow? So that's a concern, right? So once again, more of a lean design kind of idea. So then, yeah, Scott's here. Welcome. And Jacob's there, obviously answering questions. So we're kind of wrapping this up. Once again, I want to, if you have questions, conversations, emails, ideas, whatever else you're chasing around, feel free to shoot us an email to support@RC Consulting. Reminder that this broadcast is supported by the support that we get from people buying our training videos, the very system you got to see taken apart today in real life. Obviously, we are improving this, making it better. The training videos are all there. We're just trying to make the updates better and more seamless and suck less. We don't want it to suck. We want it to be very awesome. So appreciate all the support there. If you're interested in the training, you would like a coupon, let us know. Once again, all communication, support RC Consulting. We will randomly check Discord. We'll be randomly checking it, but once again, we do broadcast from this time slot, and then we will be less intensively involved with Discord during off hours. All right. I appreciate everyone. Any final comments from Myles? Thank you for this, Myles. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. And yeah, if you find bugs or need help, shoot us an email. And
yeah, Myles is a senior engineer. He can definitely help you with this stuff. And then Wally is saying tomorrow's more for me, right? So yeah, so once again, tomorrow is bunny compliant day for beginners. Today is like literally the opposite side of the world, literally. And then so we had Nick here today. Once again, Nick, just making sure we don't make fools of ourselves. We do appreciate that. And Nathan Schneider, subscribe tier 1 on Twitch. Thank you very much. Very awesome. And then Jacob Taylor, thank you. Jacob, for those of you who run into server issues, Jacob is the ace hitter that will help you. Most of you have met Jacob. And so that's awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And the guys just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected the quarterback. Great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Try to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap, stands in, throws it left for Amendola, reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10, rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, but Danny makes the grab.